It's an At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show, serving up the hottest sports takes from right here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's your hosts, Noah, John, and Erik.
Cleveland, let me talk to you. Welcome back into the East Bank Sports Show. I'm feeling great as the reigning, defending, intercontinental champion of the city of Cleveland. I'm ready to talk and lay the smack down on these two jabronis down below. Gentlemen, how are we doing? Welcome in. Can you tell I'm excited for SummerSlam? Erik, John, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up? I had no idea. SummerSlam's here? That's so weird. You only tell me about it every single day that I see you. Doing good, though. You know, the Guardians are on a tear. The Summer Olympics are so much fun. I'm great.
John,
I'm good too. I think if you're a big enough wrestling fan to actually have a real authentic belt, you should know it's Intercontinental without having to look down at it. But other than that, man, I'm ready to rock tonight.
I was looking at my prized possession, man. I was making love to it with my eyes. That's what was going on there.
I love the early shots. We're going to have fun tonight.
It's going to be a blast. Tim is back in here, already talking smack, says, don't make me come to Cleveland to take that belt. I'll put it on the line right now, Tim. I'm ready to go.
I will tell you, Tim, I just want to warn you. I played basketball with Noah, and this man thought it was football because he fouled me every single time I drive the lane, and he also just doesn't move. He is a lineman all the way. He's like a gorilla that just hunches down, and you can't move the man, so good luck, buddy. That's all I'm going to say.
The football's still in there and hard, even though I'm a retired player now. But gentlemen, I'm ready to get into this. I'm feeling good about this episode. I'm in a good mood. Got SmackDown tomorrow. Got SummerSlam on Saturday. So I'm in like a very happy mood, and I'm ready to talk some sports with you boys. How are we feeling? Are we ready to get into it? 30-second takes quickly off the rip.
Let's do it. Tim Lyons says, that's cute. I'm a 15-year Army Ranger. Thanks for your service, by the way. My money's on Tim.
Yeah, I'm shifting my bets too. Sorry, Noah.
Well, anyway,
all right.
Let's get into 30-second takes. That is the wrong banner. I am so sorry. Let me pull up the right banner and get this going. Okay, 30-second takes. What does coach Kevin Stefanski have to do to be safe? John, I'm going to let you start this one. You ready to go?
Yeah, this is a simple one. And don't worry about the banner. I remember my first time hosting a podcast. It was the last one. It went pretty well.
Whatever, man.
The answer
to your head. Howard to your head. I'll reset your timer real quick.
Don't worry about it. I don't even need all of it. Stefanski could do whatever he wants. I mean, as long as the Browns don't go over, if they win 3 games, he's going to keep his job because it'll be for a reason. We have a huge roster full of studs. We expect to be relatively decent. We've entered a new era of at least mediocrity and not being awful. I don't think Stefanski loses his job this year no matter what. Even if Watson plays all the games and he's healthy and we still suck, it's on the GM and the front office for putting Watson on the team. It's not on the coach, so I think he's safe.
You know, for someone who said that he didn't need the full 30 seconds, you used every bit of that 30 seconds. Erik, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
Go for it, man.
First, quick disagreement with John because we all know that crap rolls downhill. So the front office isn't going to take the blame. It's going to be right at the coach's feet, and it's going to be laid there for him to take. But that said, I don't think his job's on the line either. I mean, what he needs to do is win. I don't like the fact that he still wants to call plays. That's why you have an offensive coordinator. But winning cures all, and if he can take us to the promised land or even an AFC championship, I think we'll all be ecstatic.
All right, and I'll go after it too. I don't think Kevin Stefanski's been on the hot seat since about ever, in my opinion. So I know it's like the national media take to be like, oh, maybe he's still on the hot seat. Mike Vrabel's there. Oh, why is he still calling the plays? I agree with your take, Erik. I agree with you 100%. I would rather see Ken Dorsey call the plays, but you also bring Stefanski in because he's such an offensive genius. That was the reasoning for signing him back when we did. But I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think it's just a off-season talking point. Cool. Gentlemen, we got a fun topic to get into, even though it caused great debate in the group chat before we even put this one on air. Because John didn't like the wording and I didn't like the wording John was using, and Erik was just lighting the flames under both of us. So That's how it normally goes in the guys group chat. But let's talk. Baker Mayfield is arguably the best quarterback since the Browns returned in 99. Who's your number 2 pick from 99 till now? Who's your number 2 pick? John, since you didn't like this topic, you can go last. Eric, go first.
I liked the topic. I thought you worded it poorly, but go ahead.
First of all, how it's worded right now, I think is absolutely perfect. So good job, Noah. Even though that wasn't
my idea.
You wrote this. This was copied and pasted from your text when we were arguing about it, just so you know. So thank you, Eric, for writing it. I'm giving you credit for once.
Yeah, Noah's right. I just like to dump the gasoline on the flames. First of all, I will say that I didn't like this topic from the beginning, but I especially didn't like it as I read more about it because, man, I forgot how depressing Browns football really is. This should be a time of like excitement. We have, like you said, all that talent. We're getting ready. Football's on tonight. It's back on TV. So we should be like ecstatic. And here I am looking at like the 1-win Browns quarterback and, oh, he won 4. He did great. So let me just start there. That said, I do want to give a couple honorable mentions real quick before I get to my pick, because there have been some fun ones to watch. The 3 that really stand out for me over the years are Tim Couch, Derek Anderson, and Brian Hoyer. I think those 3 guys, with what they had to work with, did a pretty admirable job for us. Tim Lyons, did the Browns have a quarterback from 99 to 2024? Not really, apart from Baker. One more shout out, and you guys are probably going to flame me for this one, but Johnny Football. First of all, here's why I'm shouting him out. There's 2 reasons. Number 1 reason is that he brought excitement, and we were lacking so much of that. He made us excited to watch Browns football again. Granted, it didn't last very long, and his ceiling was a lot higher than he ever came close to, but he did generate buzz, which was fun for a little bit. But the second reason, yes, his first couple starts were terrible. He was starting to get into a little more of a groove in his second season. My point, though, in shouting him out, if you can be on cocaine and drunk and still play in the National Football League at a somewhat decent level, that's just impressive. I mean, shout him out. That's crazy to me.
I don't want to take too much. Sorry.
I didn't get my actual pick.
Yeah, Michael Irvin and like Lawrence Taylor were actually good and had similar. Anyway, continue. I thought you were done.
Yeah,
keep going.
That's fair,
go ahead. But don't forget,
you could be on cocaine and be a Hall of Famer too.
Don't forget, Manziel was playing the hardest position on the field with 0 line, and that's really been the story of most of our.
Yeah, Joe Thomas.
He had one guy.
He had
You're
Joel
right.
Batonio. I think he had Alex Mack. I'm going to look that up, but continue with your take.
I remember him running for his life, though, constantly. So you might be right. Maybe.
Some of that was his game, though. Some of that wasn't the offensive line.
Yeah.
You said, I'm going to take some heat for saying Manziel, and now you're taking the heat.
No, that's fair.
He was terrible. Yeah, but go ahead. I see your point. I just think he sucked.
Okay, real quick. I have this pulled up. We have 3 all-pro offensive linemen on this, as well as John Greco and Mitchell Schwartz. So a pretty solid offensive line from front to back.
Yeah. Is Jeff Thomas still here? No.
Who?
Jeff Fain?
No, it's Joe Thomas, Joel Batonio, Alex Mack, John Greco, Mitchell Schwartz from left tackle to right tackle.
All right. I mean, I guess I just remember the scrambling so much, which was his style. I mean, he was trying to extend plays, which we all know doesn't really work often in the NFL. Anyway, my actual pick, let's get to that. It's got to be, for me, Kelly Holcomb. And the reason that I pick Kelly is because, first of all, there was a lot of crap to wade through in order to make this pick. But my man Kelly threw 429 yards in a playoff game when it mattered most. Granted, we lost that playoff game, but the man stepped up and delivered a hell of a game. And I remember, I mean, I was young for this game, but I remember watching it. It wasn't a blowout loss. It was pretty close from what I recall going into the fourth quarter, if I remember correctly. Again, I was like 11, 12. But he gets it for me because he really delivered when he needed to. He also had a decent completion rate and percentage in his time in his starts. He didn't have too many, but that would be my pick for best of the worst Browns quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in here, and I think Kelly is going to be a popular pick here if I had to guess what John's going to say. But my answer is based off of a statistic. Okay. There's a statistic that rates a quarterback called the quarterback rating, right? Pretty simple.
I'm following so far.
A statistic created by ESPN in 2011 to measure how well a quarterback contributes to a football game. QBR takes into account many factors, including passing, rushing, turnovers, penalties, and strength of opposing defenses.
Wait, 2011? There was no QBR before that?
I know. That was
interesting.
also the Google AI. I just copied and pasted it, so that could be wrong. I mainly wanted to talk about the QBR factor, like what the factors into it.
Sorry,
were, but
I apologize for derailing. Our fact checkers are on vacation this week, guys. It's okay.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So with that, I then looked, out of all the quarterbacks since 1999, season wide, who had the highest QBRs. No surprise, number 1 and number 2 spot is Baker Mayfield. My answer to this question is going to be a little bit of a weird one. Maybe not totally weird, but a little bit of a weird one. Because he comes in at number 3 from the 2015 season with a QBR of 93.3, Josh McCown.
Yeah.
He has, out of all of this, I can go down the list.
That wasn't a thumbs up for you. That was an accident. Sorry, go on.
Baker Mayfield, Josh McCown. Cody Kessler is number 4, which I thought was funny, but he only started like 2 or 3 games there. So fun fact about myself real quick. I was a Cody Kessler believer back in the day. I thought for some reason this guy was going to be the one to pull us out of the 0-16, 1-15, but that was me in Delulu land. After that, you have Joe Flacco, then Jacoby Brissett, then Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield again, Derek Anderson, Johnny Manziel at 10 with a QBR of 79.4. But I'll digress. John, I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction, but similar era. Josh McCown was better than Johnny Football. I mean, I'll give you that. It wasn't out of nowhere. He had some solid and respectable stats, but just a little bit of context, too. The reason I disagreed with this topic wasn't because I didn't like the topic. I disagreed with the terminology, who's the best quarterback of the bad era or the dark days. Winning more games than you lose, coming in second place in your division and getting your head caved in by a rookie quarterback by 40 points isn't arriving anywhere. It just means we aren't putrid. I don't think there has been worse seasons, right? Winning 0-1 games is worse than winning 10 or 11 or 12, but we haven't arrived. So I thought we just open it up and say who's the best. Yeah, obviously Baker's number 1. He's my number 1. It's still my go-to Browns jersey. I have a Barstool Sports flag with his head on it that I still use every now and then. Baker Mayfield guy, and would still argue that if we had Baker Mayfield, would be in as good or better shape than having Deshaun. But that wasn't the question. Question was who was the best quarterback since 1999, not named Baker Mayfield, and my answer is Tim Couch. Kelly Holcomb and Tim Couch were 1A and 1B in my mind. I said I was going to speak to the one who didn't get the most love tonight. You guys already hit on Holcomb. He lit up the Steelers. We should have won the game. I was heartbroken. I was in high school. I remember watching it. I didn't talk for like an hour and a half after it was over. Still think Andre Davis got his foot in, and we should have run out to kick a long field goal and see if we could win. But Tim Couch was drafted number 1 overall in a city starved for football and had absolutely no shot. You've read False Start by Terry Pluto. We had a shit front office, an awful stadium, no talent. The league was embarrassed because the Jaguars and Panthers were really good. So they penalized the next expansion team, which happened to be the Browns. It took us 10 years to recover. Nobody paid the price more for that than Tim Couch. There's still guys on the 4-letter network and when you watch sports takes and other shows that refer to quarterbacks getting their heads beat in as rookies as getting Tim Couched still. And that guy stood in and played 1A, 1B with Kelly Holcomb in that one playoff year. The only appearance we had, I believe, was 2002 until the Baker Mayfield era. Not super sexy stats, not going to be a bunch of Pro Bowls on there, but he's got to be one of, if not the quarterback with the most starts and the most yards and the most. I mean, if Tim Couch had everything Josh McCown had, he'd be a 10-win quarterback every season. He had the tools. I don't know if he's going to be Aaron Rodgers or something like that, but he had the tools to be a legitimate starter. You saw it at Kentucky. You saw it as a pro. So I think when we think back about the Browns leaving and coming back and being so bad, we put it at the quarterback's feet. But I think in the pantheon of Browns history, we actually owe Tim Couch a pat on the back and a beer if you see him out and about, because he took it on the chin for the entire organization, the entire team, and all the fans when he was doing his best every week. So shout out Tim Couch.
Yeah, man, I agree.
I think he played as well as he could in the circumstances. He just had shit circumstances.
That was always my thought. Obviously, I'm too young to have witnessed and remember Tim Couch to that extent, because that was 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, I think. But I've always said that, like, looking back at old tape and understanding what the roster construction was, to your point about the expansion and how the Jaguars and the Panthers were so good, and then we got the short end of the stick because of that. I've always thought that Tim Couch was not one of the names on the jersey that should be like, oh, we're just taking another chance, or we took a chance. Like, he had the ability. He just got Tim Couched, basically. Yep. I want to touch real quick, too, because I brought up QBR for my picks. I wanted to talk about the QBRs for your guys' pick. Kelly Holcomb was ranked 20th, actually, with a QBR of 74.6 for the 2003 season. Tim Couch comes in at 13 and 14 with a 77.6 and a 77.3 for the 2003 and the 2000 season. And then all the other names above Tim Couch are like Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, and then we're back to the top 10. Yep. You also have names such as Jeff Garcia, Trent Dilfer, Jason Campbell. Shout out Jason Campbell. You remember them guys.
Man, well, that's another point, too, that I can get to. The last note that I had was longevity. Given how hard a hits that Tim Couch was taking and what they were doing to his body, I mean, everybody we're listing, like, the reason I wouldn't go with you thought I was going to go with, like, a Joe Flacco, or the reason I don't even want to say all of these guys played, like, 11 games, right? Like, Derek Anderson didn't even start that season when we went 10-6. I think it was Colt McCoy. Somebody got destroyed game one. He came in game two, and then the rest was fun. But, like, how many quarterbacks do we have that even started 2 seasons in a row? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's wild.
No, I'm with you 100%. Erik, do you have anything to chime in here? You've been kind of quiet, but I totally get it. It's a weird topic.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the things that I want to touch on, and I did a little bit, is how much coaching mattered in this too. Like, I think Butch Davis back then handled the quarterback situation terribly. You know, that playoff loss, not to hit the point too hard, but a bunch of veterans didn't return after that playoff loss. Like, it had impact beyond just that season. And I think we put too much sometimes the onus on the quarterback themselves. Like, yeah, they got to go out and play, but the coaching carousel that we've had, the ownership changes, the management changes, none of that has helped. So for some of these guys to go out and be successful despite all of those odds against them, I think it's just incredible, no matter who it is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Gentlemen, let's cut it to commercial break unless anybody had a final point they wanted to throw in there. When we come back, we got a trending topic from the timeline on Twitter not too long ago, and then we'll go from there. Anybody else got anything?
No. My favorite game from that era was Bottlegate. I was there with my dad and a priest. Another story for another day, but interesting afternoon at Brown Stadium. Let me tell you.
John, his dad, and a priest walks into Cleveland Brown Stadium. Not sure where it goes from there, but
forget the drunk uncle story post. That should be the next quote you throw on there, Erik. But I digress. We'll be right back with the East Bank Sports Show at the office after these commercial messages. And we are back with the East Bank Sports Show at the office. I hope you enjoyed those commercials. I want to take a minute to shout out follow us everywhere you consume your social media, whether that be YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We have East Bank Sports Show pages on all of those said websites. It helps us grow this brand a ton when you go give us a follow over there as well. I also want to shout out all the people at the Fanatical Elves, the people who help us, put the money, monetization, pay our bills with the ads. Shout out Steve, Lou, Jarrell, Sam, John, all those guys, not our John, other John Suchan, who's a great guy. Shout out all them. Make sure you check out that YouTube channel as well, the X. I got to get better about that. And everywhere else, there's merch involved. We have merch on a merch website now. There's a lot of giveaways going on those accounts, especially if you're subscribed to that YouTube channel. Over there as well. We'll be doing a giveaway here soon. Don't you fret, because we've been steadily growing in subscribers the last couple months. So I want to give back to some of the new people that are paying attention. And from there, guys, let's talk the topic on Twitter that was trending not too long ago. So the question was posed: you have 6 championships to divide up amongst all of your favorite sports teams. So for us, obviously, the Cavs, the Guardians, and the Browns. You have 6 championships to divide up amongst all of them in the next 20 years. So you don't have to, sacrifice the Cavs championship, for example. Where do they go? Why do they go there? John, I made you go last this time. You could go first this time. Get after it, man.
This was tough, dude. So there's the way I rank the teams in my mind. The Browns are my favorite. Guardians are number 2. Buckeyes and Cavs are kind of tied for 3. I love all of them.
You have Buckeyes that low? Wow.
Did you include Ohio State in this? Because I did not.
I did not. I kept it Cleveland.
Okay, well,
professional sports titles.
Okay, I'll keep it Cleveland too. Although if I could include college, I'd definitely give the Buckeyes one of the 6. But
agreed.
I had a really hard time because I was like, if I get to give these teams a championship, should I rank it based on who's most important to me? Plus the Cavs already won one and recently. So I came down to kind of 2 ideas. One was like, how dope would it be to have a dynasty? Like give the Guardians 1 and have the Browns win like 5 Super Bowls out of the next 6 or 7. That would be kind of crazy. Go on a Patriots like run and return us to glory. But I ended with the old Democratic split. I said I'd give the Browns 3, the Guardians 2, and the Cavs 1 because I count the Cavs having one relatively recently. Browns are my favorite team. That's kind of a lame answer for all of the thought processes and stuff I went to, but that's where I landed. Browns 3, Cavs 1 with the Guardians 2 in the middle. I might go 2, and 2 as well. I'm not sure, but I don't know. It was like a tougher question without the Buckeyes in there to throw off the balance too. It was kind of like because like I said, I'd give them 1, but yeah, I go 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, so that's interesting because, and Erik, I was going to have you go before me, but John just kind of spoiled my answer before he gave his answer. And I think this is not to the surprise of anybody that knows me, but I went the route of the Browns going the dynasty route. I gave him 5. This is my note. I'll read you my note. 5 to the Browns, 1 to the Guardians, in parentheses, this season, please. Get the Browns jokes completely out of here because now we're a dynasty. That was what my answer was. The Cavs had their 1. It was a very special moment. I think it was special because LeBron was, he's not from here, but he's from Northeast Ohio. We had our moment with that. I think it's still fun basketball to watch. They don't necessarily need to be the team out of the 3 to win it to make us happy again. I mean, I'm taking a championship any day of the week, obviously. The Guardians this year have been so much fun. They made some moves at the deadline that made me feel like, they weren't like the sexy moves, but they were the moves that we kind of needed to see to push ourselves, hopefully, towards a nice playoff run. Hence why I said this year. And then the Browns, if we just win the next 5, I'm completely fine with that. They're my favorite team. It's my favorite sport. It's the most important sport to me. So out of the 3 I'd want to see win the most, it's Browns, and some more Browns for me. Erik, go ahead.
Yeah, so the 2 that I vacillated between and that were hard for me were between giving 5 to the Browns and giving 2 to the Guardians. I'm not saying in that same, obviously that's 7. What I landed on at the end was 4 to the Browns, 1 to the Guardians, and 1 to the Cavs. I could switch that Cavs one to another Guardians as well. I like watching the Guardians, but I went through kind of the same thought process that you guys both mentioned. The Browns are my number 1. Although they go back and forth between Browns and Buckeyes for me. But Buckeyes are right up there for me as well. I can't believe John put them at like 4th. That's wild.
Tied for 3rd with the Cavs.
And Guardians would fall behind them, and then finally the Cavs. What I struggled more with was thinking about the timing, because we said in the next 20 years for 6 championships is kind of a large window if you think about it. So yes, I would love to have 4 Brown Super Bowls right in a row, but then you have 16 years left. Maybe you throw in the Guardians and Cavs at that point, but you have 14 years now without a championship. That's where I struggled a little bit. So how do you space them? I tend to agree a Browns dynasty would be a lot of fun and would put to rest all the issues that we've had over the years, all the mistake by the Lakes, all the Brown flush it down, everything that we've heard for the past how many seasons now, too many to count. That would go away almost immediately. I'm not sure that the city can handle 4 Browns Super Bowl wins. I'm not sure that we can handle 1 Browns Super Bowl win.
We burn everything down. We have to rebuild the city.
It was handled very well when the Cavs won. So
yep, I was going to say, I trust Cleveland.
Just in experiencing that. And shout out to the police and public works, because after that win, they just straight up shut down the entrances to the city. So nobody could really come in past the however many people. But yeah, 4 Browns, 1 Guardians, 1 to Cavs. I think the 1 to the Cavs, like I said, it could go to the Guardians, but I like the idea of a Cavs team without LeBron winning one. I don't think it's super important, but anybody can say, oh yeah, they had LeBron, he was on a mission, etc. Not to take anything away from 2016. It was incredible. But to get one with our young core without him would be pretty cool.
Might be another topic for another day. You like I like football as my favorite sport, but I'm from Cleveland, didn't go to Ohio State. You put the Buckeyes ahead of the Guardians in terms of your sports love?
Yeah, I mean,
okay, wild. I don't want to get sidetracked. Maybe we put a pin in that one, but
first of all, Chelsea might be above almost all of them too.
Okay. Noah, where's the mute?
But hold up. But
no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I mean, that national championship in both 2015, 16, and 2002, were those not some of the greatest memories you've ever had in sports?
100%. But they would be better had the Guardians beat the Indians beat the Cubs.
Yes, Tim, it's soccer. We call it football.
So where did you land on it? Who? Now I forgot what your final answer was. How did you break them out?
4 to Browns. I'm a little shocked. I don't know. Buckeye Nation is strong, and maybe it helps that I didn't grow up in Cleveland proper. I grew up an hour south. So while I am a Cleveland fan, the Buckeyes were probably a little bit bigger to my identity growing up than Cleveland sports, even though I grew up in the 90s, went to all the Cleveland sports games like crazy. I don't know. Buckeyes have that place in my heart.
Yeah. And it's me too, just for the record. Like my brother-in-law and sister-in-law went there. They're like, you're a bigger Ohio State fan than 80% of the people who went to the damn school. Like I bleed scarlet and gray. I root for them every Saturday. I live and die with the losses. I hate Alabama and LSU and Georgia just because of them. I just wouldn't,
not to even mention.
Yeah, I just wouldn't put them above the Gardos. I mean, if you could say, hey, the Buckeyes can win a national championship or the Guardians can win a World Series, that's a no-brainer for me.
Part of it is the fandom, though. I think, like, I've been in parts of the world, like literally I've been in London, UK, where I went and watched Ohio State, Michigan at a Buckeye bar.
Yeah,
And in that same week, I also watched the Browns. I don't remember who they played, but I'm sure they lost. I think it was Miami. I watched the Browns, same thing, at a Browns backers bar in London. That's incredible to me. You're not going to find the Guardians
No,
or
that's
the
true.
Cavs anywhere else, and I think that's a part of it.
I yelled OH and got an IO from 3 people on the Ponte Vecchio in Italy, in downtown Florence. And one of them was my roommate from college, who we didn't know each other were there that day.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was wild.
It's just yeah, I mean, you could do that literally anywhere. I mean, Asia might be tough, but I wouldn't be surprised if I went to Tokyo and yelled out OH, I'd get an IO back. Like that's just a different level. But to answer your question, I ended up at 4 to Browns, 1 to Guardians, 1 to Cavs.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right. Interesting. I don't know, man. I think I would want to change my list after it happened. Like, if I load, like Noah, I think if you front loaded it, you were like, okay, I'm going to give 5 to the Browns, or like, it sounds great today. I think when the Browns won 2 and you still had 4 in the bag, you'd be like, all right, man, I'd love for the Guardians to win more than 1, or throw 1 to the Cavs. Like, if the Browns could win 3, like, I don't know, I might change mine too, but maybe not.
I don't know.
I would stick with my 5 for the Browns. That's how much it would mean to me to be a dynasty.
And don't forget about the lead up to, I mean, it is still the biggest sporting event, one of the biggest sporting events of all time, the Super Bowl. I mean, everything around that and being able to watch your team. I will say, I've thought about this before. I think my enjoyment level of the Super Bowl would go down if the Browns were in it, because
so much.
right now,
another game. Except
I can enjoy. Exactly. I can enjoy football and the ads. I'm a big advertising guy, so that's, I mean, just as up there for me. And I couldn't enjoy any of that if it were the Browns. I mean, imagine if they're losing most of the game. That's a miserable experience.
Correct.
Would you, real quick, and then we'll switch gears because this is my favorite. Think of it 30-second takes. The Browns make the Super Bowl. Are you going to watch it somewhere, or are you watching it at home?
I think I'd have to. My dad gives me so much shit still to this day for not watching Game 7 of the Cavs with him. And I was at a bar. I was downtown. And it was so much fun because I literally went, if you guys are Cleveland fans, I literally went from the rooftop bar at the 9. And after we won, I took the elevator down. I walked from the 9 to 4th Street. And some of my favorite memories in life is that walk. It was wall-to-wall people. Everybody was in a good mood. On East 9th Street, some fans had taken over a fire truck. They climbed up on the fire truck. So cops with horses came. They said, hey, get down. Everybody got down, and then they were high-fiving the cops. Like, it was this surreal scene that I'll never forget. The parade was kind of a mess, but that night was incredible. That said, I didn't get to share that moment, and it was Father's Day, with my dad. I did watch Game 7 of the Indians Cubs with him. Unfortunately, we lost. So I'm really split to answer. I know you said 30 seconds. I'm sorry. I'm really split, though, because part of my heart would want to be with family. But at the same time, going out, if I went out with you guys, you're close enough friends where it's just a bridge away from family. I don't know. That's tough. It's a tough question. I don't have an answer, I guess.
John, go for it.
If it was the Browns, I'd be at home. My wife and I have thrown a Super Bowl party almost every year, barring the pandemic, since we got married and moved into our first house. So I would certainly be at home. But the make ribs and do punch and then put up big goalposts with beer on the table, and I'd be like, hey, listen, everybody bring something, put it on the table, be here a half an hour before the game, and don't say shit for 4 hours. I don't care about the commercials. I don't care about the halftime show. Miss me with all of it. Like, I would be so freaking geeked, but also nervous, and I don't even know what I would do.
Can I just tell you one thing, John?
Yeah.
Every year for the Super Bowl, I'm just saying, if you want to invite me, I make these bomb chicken fajitas. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, when you show up in a Chelsea jersey, like, oh, I thought it was the other football. I'm going to be in there
now
with the fake British
give me a little
accent.
more credit than that.
I'm just messing with you. But no, I will say this one last point, though. the playoff and the sports experience is bigger and better to me in baseball and basketball for your team because you get more out of it and it runs longer. The World Series with the Cubs was 7 games. That is crazy. The Super Bowl is one afternoon. And I would start losing my shit right around the time we hosted or headed to the AFC Championship game. It would just be like playoff baseball is so cool. It's October. It's cool. It's football season. The lights and the sound. Like, I don't know. It's a different experience. So, yeah.
My answer to this is kind of simple, and I'll keep it to more of a 30-second takes. I'm like, for both of you jabronis, I'll start cutting my wrestling promo again. It's a cop-out because I live downtown, so it doesn't really matter to me because I'll get the best of both experience anyway. And even if we headed to John's, like we could still make it downtown or, say we all met up at a bar or something like that. Like, obviously, it's the best of both. Or if I hosted something here, you know what I mean? Like, if we win, it's pots and pans and champagne and banging and making a bunch of noise and
hands.
You don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know what I'm talking. So when
we're not
I was
waking
younger,
the kids up, we're celebrating a Super Bowl win, my man.
The Browns are in the Super Bowl. The kids are up, brother. I'm telling you that right now.
You get my point.
No. Listen.
Fireworks, firecrackers.
Yes.
So when I was younger,
I'd blow my own porch off my own house if the Browns won the Super Bowl. Go ahead.
When I was younger and we'd throw like a New Year's party, we'd go outside banging the pots and pans going like, oh my God, it's the New Year. So when I think of running outside to celebrate with a bunch of people, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Well, your 1920 celebration will probably take a back seat to everyone else's, but it is such a dream. I mean, I wouldn't say it's up there with winning the lottery, but it is such a dream, like thinking about that in the city. And Noah, I think you're right, though. Being in the city or near the city, I guess I'd have to just tell my dad he's got to come up to Cleveland. I mean, I'm downtown as well, but
I know my parents, my friends, that kind of or my parents, my family friends, that kind of thing would all probably want to be up here as opposed to my hometown or something like that, just because on the off chance that we win the Super Bowl, where else do you want to be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you guys this.
I don't think it's the 1920s, though. I think it's Ashtabula and Worcester coming out. I don't think it has anything to do with the date.
That's fair. Gentlemen, we've been on this topic for a minute. I'd like to switch gears. Erik, we are not cutting your topic, even though I wanted to just to make you mad, because we're keeping with the football theme. We're in good spirits. Preseason started today. With the Hall of Fame game. Browns have been in camp. Shout out the injury today, the running back. Guys, remind me his name real quick. That was really scary. He got life-flighted because of a neck injury. Devontae Freeman? What's his name again?
Dante.
And I had a crazy
Dante Foreman, that's right.
Dante
I'm sorry.
Foreman,
it was the guy they brought in. What were you going to say, John, real quick?
I didn't get the news so much. I didn't even know it happened until like 6 p.m. I had a big day at work, and my mother-in-law, of all people, was here having coffee with my wife. She was like, what about the guy who got life-flighted? And I was like, oh, my God, what?
Yeah, it was crazy. But shout out, prayers to him real quick. Sorry, your name slipped me, but he was in good spirits. They released him already. So it sounds like a pretty bad concussion. And that's honestly a really bad segue into our next topic. Based on what we all know about CTE, would you let your kids play football? And me and Erik were debating this and thought this would be a really interesting one from all the different perspectives. We have me at 23, Erik at 32, John at 510 with all of his kids. What do we feel with what do we feel about this topic? Which one of you guys want to start it?
The one with real kids?
No, I think we should save that for last.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. I don't care.
I'll start.
You go. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, I'll start it. Let me start this. So my answer to this is simple, right? I think it comes to no surprise what my answer is going to be based off of my background. Yes, my kids would be allowed to play football if they wanted to, despite all the CTE concerns due to the advancements in technology, how they've been playing the game safer, how they're changing the game to be safer. There's a lot of different techniques that are out there now to make it safer to avoid concussions. I know it's not a complete avoidable thing, but you can avoid a concussion in any sport whatsoever. I know it's a higher risk because it's football, but I remember vividly, I was playing middle school basketball. I was on my middle school 8th grade team. And one of my really good friends at the time went head to head like this with an opposing team's player. It was the worst concussion I've ever seen in person, and he was out for like 2 weeks. That was the worst concussion I've ever seen in 15 plus years of playing sports, and 4 of them being on the collegiate level. So yes, I would let my kids play football because I think it is a perfect growth opportunity. I know all sports are, but there is not a single thing I've done in my life outside of football that has formed me to be the man that I am today and the man I still strive to become to be at a young age. It's formative. It shows you the ups and downs. It helps with your mental. It helps with your physical. I just think there's so many positives to the sport that does get overlooked because of the concern of injuries and the concern of, CTE, that kind of thing. You see CTE happen, right? And that's, Erik, I'm going to use something that you talked about a couple episodes back about, dreaming for the stars, reaching for the stars and being realistic. CTE now as a pro athlete, I think there's a lot of concern there. But in terms of playing a high school sport, playing a middle school sport, even collegiately, like I've probably had a concussion. I'm not going to lie, but I've never been diagnosed with a concussion. I've never had a noticeable moment where I'm like, oh, I'm concussed either. But who knows, right? So there's a lot of factors in play here. I'm kind of going all over the place with all my points. The last thing I want to say too is that they've done again as many things as possible to make this safer, whether it be the Guardian caps, newer helmet advancements, that kind of thing. So I'm curious, Erik, I kind of already know your point from talking at the actual office with you, but I want to hear what you have to say. Oh, I remember the last thing I was going to say. I'm sorry, real quick. That being said, I don't know how I feel. I never played football until 6th grade. So I wouldn't know how I would feel about the elementary full-blown contact football, first, second, third grade or whatever. Flag, sure, different things like that. But it would just depend kind of what the leagues would like and that kind of thing. But I would lean towards maybe relaxing until we get a little bit older and a little bit more developed and, have some strength and meat on the bones, that kind of thing. Erik, go ahead, man.
Well, first of all, I want to start by saying that that it's more of a professional sport issue. That's just blatantly wrong. It's not more of a professional sport issue. It's more commonly known, I think, because of the high profileness that is professional sports. But Boston University did a study along with the VA, Boston Healthcare, where they analyzed 152 brains a little while back. This is in 2023, I believe. And the brains that they were studying were people that they were all under the age of 30 and including as young as 17. And these are people that they surveyed people that had a history of head injuries and impacts from playing contact sports. More than 40% of those studied had CTE. And first of all, it should be known that the only way to diagnose CTE is through autopsy. There is no formalized test or anything for those living that you can get in order to determine that somebody has it, right? It's only after they die. But looking at the stats, I mean, it's just so alarming. There's researchers found CTE in 345 out of 376 former NFL players. So, 90+%. John, check my math because I'm not a math guy, but I'm pretty sure 90+%. All these studies are coming back and showing that even with amateur athletes, the vast majority of them in contact sports have CTE. Now, first of all, everything that you mentioned, Noah, in that what it builds in character and learning to be a teammate, all of those things can be learned in other sports. I don't think football is necessary for that. Yes, the game is advancing in ways that help protect. I will say that a little sour grapes, but it was not, they're not doing everything that they can to protect players. They're doing everything they can to protect money. It's funny how CTE only came to the forefront after, I wish I knew the real doctor's name, but Will Smith essentially made it a thing. The NFL they knew what was happening and they were covering it up because it impacts the bottom line. That said, there is some really cool technology. Like when you watch the NFL, and you can buy these for your kids too. They have those Q collars. It looks like a cushion, and it sits there on your neck, and it puts pressure on your carotid so that your head fills with a little more blood than it normally would, and that helps to lessen the impact once you're hit. Because there's more blood there, there's less brain injury. So the studies go, and it's like a couple $100 thing that you can buy.
They're even cheaper now because it's become so popular, because like Dalton Schultz wears them and stuff like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. They're like $60 or $80 now. It's
oh, really?
Not
I mean, they should
all,
everyone should wear that. That said, at the end of the day, when I'm talking about my own children, yeah, it sucks. Like being in the homecoming game and dating the cheerleader and being the football player, it's so kind of in our Americana in our heads that and you watch like a TV show like Stranger Things or whatever, it's going to have that iconography that is going to make you want that. But I don't think that makes for I don't think that makes the sacrifice worthy. Just for me, for my own take, if it's my kids, if they even have a 50% chance of CTE and issues down the line. By the way, all those brains studied, the number one cause that people died from that had CTE was suicide. It was followed closely by accidental drug overdose, which I don't have research to back this up, but if I had to guess, that's probably from people trying to mitigate and manage pain and symptoms from these things. I'm not saying Aaron Hernandez or the other guy killed the people that they killed because of CTE, but their brains were terrible when they were analyzed. There's just so much here. And when you start to talk about family, it's like saying, okay, if my son or daughter played this sport and they had a 25% chance of getting cancer, would you still let them play? You probably would say, hell no, that's crazy, right? I just feel like it's the same thing at this point. Would I let my kids play soccer? I don't know. I'd tell them not to head the ball maybe. But listen, this is dramatically more of an issue in American football. That's just a fact. I agree that there are issues with kids trying to head the ball too young. And then there are, of course, head injuries when when two players go to head the ball. But that is dwarfed dramatically by what happens in football, American football. So I get what you're saying, Tim, but that's kind of a straw man argument for me. So at the end of the day,
there's some research here real quick, and I don't mean to cut both of you off though. You're talking top 5 sports in general that have the most concussions.
Mm-hmm.
Just concussions. Obviously, CTE is harder to track for all the reasons you already mentioned. Rugby number 1, American football number 2, ice hockey number 3, number 4 is soccer. It's not that far behind it either.
Listen, in the one study that was done, 60% of them played American football, followed by 15%, which were soccer, and 10%, which was ice hockey. I've actually read studies, and again, I don't have numbers in front of me, that rugby is actually less likely to get head injuries because you're not playing with a helmet. You're less likely to lead with your head, or your natural instinct is to pull away. So a lot of those head injuries don't happen. Shout out to the U.S. rugby teams competing at the Olympics. But listen, the point is American football accounts for a much higher rate of it. And is the potential life of my kids worth it, where they're never going to sniff a pro field, or, it's done for out of recreation? No, I just don't think it is. Would I struggle to tell them no if they were interested in it and wanted to pursue it? Yes, I would. My heart and brain would definitely collide there. But I don't know. I'm not sure it's worth it at the end of the day.
John, I want to hear your takes, man. I've been ready to hear what you have to say about this for a while. Not saying your takes were bad, Erik. That wasn't actually a shot. I just been curious since you brought this topic up, what John had to say.
A lot of good stats you threw out and a lot of good conversation. Great research, Ian, pulling all that up. The couple things I would want to follow up with, maybe we talk with later. I think when people say it gets worse as you get older, it's not that it doesn't start when you're little, but it's a progressive type of thing. The more hits you take, the worse it gets, the faster it accelerates. And there's no argument that if you play football for 3 years when you're in kindergarten through third grade, and you play football from kindergarten until you retire from the NFL, that the number of hits you take will make it worse. You're exactly right. It starts at a young age. But the size and the speed and the violence of the game get worse as you advance through your career. And the higher those things get, the more violent the contact and the more times you've been hit, which compounds everything. But where this comes out for me, so the one thing that a lot of times they say, if you had kids, would you let them, that people don't account for, whether they do or don't have kids, all the time if they don't, usually if they do, is A, you're not the only person that gets to make the decision. I have 4 daughters, and they are all free thinkers, free of mind and spirit, and they are driven, and I have coached them to find what they want to do, pursue it, and work as hard as you can to get where you want to go. That's the first thing. So it's not your decision always. Yes, you could shut it down. If your son says, I'm playing football, and you say, no, I'm not playing football. You're not. Yes, you could shut it down, but they have an opinion. The next thing that I would say about it is you could find danger in a lot of things that we do, and your kids are going to want to do something dangerous. Football is one. It would be scary because there are risks. I was a hockey player. I had 3 concussions. I was hospitalized once. I suffer from migraines now. I wonder how much of my life could be CTE. We'll never know, or maybe we'll never know. But my parents never said you can't play. I did get my 3rd concussion, and my mom was kind of like, hey, if this happens again, you probably gotta pull out. And thankfully I didn't have one, and then I played baseball. But the other piece of it is, what about other stuff that's dangerous? If your son or daughter comes to you and wants to play football or rugby, and you're like, no, CTE, what are you going to say if they want to be a police officer? What are you going to say when they want to join the Marines and serve their country? I was going to the Air Force or the Naval Academy, and my mom hated the idea. She freaked out. She panicked. She didn't want me in uniform. She was like, oh, my God, my baby's going to be in the Air Force or in the Navy. I did my cadet visit. I went and visited. I ended up going to quote-unquote civilian college and not going. She never said a word about not wanting me to go until after I decided I wasn't, because she said it was my decision and she was going to support me regardless. We have to remember this isn't always our decision, that the kids are going to have a voice and that you could get hurt doing a lot of things. Being an electrician could be dangerous. Being a soldier could be dangerous. Being a cop could be dangerous. Being somebody who works with mentally challenged patients who have severe behavioral disorders could be dangerous. You just have to strike the balance of how much of your life do you live in fear and trying to prevent, how much do you let your kids find their own way and do their own thing. To answer the question, I process all of this stuff together with my wife and family. I would tell them about the risks. I would tell them about why I was nervous. We would talk about what it can mean long term. But if my kids said I wanted to play football and that is what I want to do and that's my dream, I would not stand in the way of it. And the farther they got in their career, we'd have to keep an eye on certain things. If they're prone to concussions, that's different. There's a lot of different variables you could think about. Also, like you said, if my kid's 7 and wants to play flag football, yeah, of course, sure. Why not? Who cares? Like this decision to me is kind of leaving middle school, going into high school, and then leaving high school, going into college again. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of things that drive me crazy, but I got teenage girls who have curfew, going out with your girlfriends for, I got a kid in college, like binge drinking and drugs and sex. College is fucking dangerous. Like, if you don't have a good head on your shoulders, you don't know what's out there, you don't pay attention. So I don't know. I could worry myself to death about everything. football is certainly unnecessary, and I get what you're saying there, but like, no, I'm not going to tell my kid they can't pursue something because of my fears about how it could impact their life.
I want to touch on a couple points because, first of all, I'm not saying you should live your life in fear. That's not, and I said I would be conflicted in the decision period.
No. So really quick before you go on, my response is my response. It wasn't necessarily directed at you. The pieces where I said like the concussions, I'm saying you generally speaking, not you, Erik, sound like you're scared to live your life. But yeah, go on.
I mean, I agree with the autonomous part. I mean, we're talking about human beings that have thoughts and feelings that absolutely should contribute to that conversation. But there's a reason we don't let kids drive until they're 15, 16. There's a reason we don't let them join the military until they're 18. So some of those things, if kids are getting concussions, and I don't know if this is the case, but if they're getting concussions in middle school, I feel like that changes the nexus a little bit. Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying. I mean, I did so much stuff as a kid that it's a shock that I'm not dead. That's just boys, right? I mean, we could all probably tell a handful of stories right now of, this one time, I almost drowned because I was trying to catch a duck in the river. Like, I mean, yeah, that's what happens with boys, but mitigating obvious risk, I'm not, if my kid's really into, nuclear fission, I'm not going to probably let them go play with those materials either. Yeah. So it's that point that you got to find where
it's just though that it's that with everything. So let's bring it back off of the cops and military. Do you know what the number one reason kids visit the emergency room in the United States is?
Probably they swallow something, I would imagine.
It's trampolines. Guess what I had on my patio for 3 years? A trampoline. Because they're fun and my kids wanted one.
Sure.
I know somebody was going to come in with a bloody nose or a chipped tooth or a cracked arm and we're going to have to go to the ER. Yep. Everybody wants the trampoline. It was pandemic. It was fun. And we got the trampoline. And it's like, that's a good example. Is a trampoline necessary or critical to life? Absolutely not.
Well, I think we need more research, right? Because if you talk about like the possibility of, not to get dark, but potentially being raped in college, that possibility is probably less than 1%. If developing CTE by playing football is greater than 20%, we don't know that. I guess we need to know those things, right? Mm-hmm. The evidence that we see right now from the brains that have been studied are pretty damning, and that's what I'm basing my answer on. It's not that I'm no fun, Tim. I'll go out and play football with these guys.
Yes, it is that you're
tomorrow. Noah is losing control very soon of this show. I promise you that. The point is it worth the risk? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't have kids. I would go put myself at risk. I took it from the perspective of potentially being a parent and wanting my kids to end up all right at the end of the day. Yeah, you can't protect them from everything. They need to live and they need to learn. But if I know that 25% of people that play football develop CTE, no matter what age they play at, I don't know. That just seems a little crazy to me. Those aren't the numbers. I made that up, but I think we just need to know more moving forward.
Let's hone it in real quick. We had a viewer comment and I pulled it back down because I didn't want John to lose this train of thought. Shout out to Tyler. Do you think the new kickoff rules will help limit injuries? I think this is really interesting. I'd like to keep this very brief because we're coming up on an hour already, which is fantastic. I love talking with you guys. I think it does two things. It helps limit the injuries to an extent, but more importantly, it makes the kickoff more exciting again, and that's why they did it. That's kind of my 2 cents. But I do think because you're not running and colliding with someone, you will see a limited amount of injuries. But go ahead. I want to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, I think it'll help with the injuries. It's meant to kick off in the most dangerous play. People running full speed now. Remember the wedge busters when I was a kid? Yeah, it's going to make the game safer, and we'll actually see kick returns again. Like, this is a win-win. I don't have a problem with it. And yes, it should help limit injuries.
Agree. I think it's one of the best decisions that they've made. Keep in mind, Tyler, that this is a trial. This is just for 1 year. So they could go back to regular kickoffs, but I'm hoping that it's successful. I don't know what the NFL will define as successful. I would assume that they want to see more returns. And if that's the case, they'll probably implement it further. But remember, these are all owners' decisions that they vote on in the summer. So yes, I think it will limit injuries, and I am excited to see it as well.
Gentlemen, anything else you want to touch on this before we go into final thoughts and takes? Let's do final thoughts and takes. Favorite segment of the show. Like to wrap it up, talking about anything else on the mind. Erik, start us off, man.
Yeah, so I am going to give you a hot take. We normally call it hot takes. I don't know why Noah changed it.
It always says final thoughts and takes at the bottom. I've always just
you call it hot takes normally
or whatever. But yeah, go for it.
Spicy. All right. So we're all big football fans. We all thank you, Tim. We appreciate you watching. We're all big football fans. We all enjoy the Super Bowl. It's probably the seminal event of the year, right? Well, I'm going to just go on record and say the Olympic Games are the best sporting event of all time. Period. End of. Listen, I'm coming into work, and unfortunately the games are in Paris, so they're 6 hours ahead of us, but I'm turning on my TV in my office, and, before I've even talked to Susan in accounting, I've watched archery and badminton and fencing. And then I have lunch and I come back and I watch 3 hours of swimming. And then I'm watching Simone Biles kill it. The Olympics are wild, and I love every second of it. I wish I could watch, 24/7. I am still working, unfortunately. But to have it on even in the background, I'm so excited for it to come to LA. Tim, beach volleyball. Yep. One of my favorites. Literally every event, like, I'm so into, and it's funny because you learn so much. Like, I'm talking to Noah at the water cooler, and I'm like, hey, did you know the South Korean women archery team has won 10 straight gold medals? Like, that's wild. They almost lost to China, but they didn't. It's just such a fun time.
I was gonna second this too, because I'm not as cool as Erik. I'm in my my infancy in corporate America, so I don't have an office. I have a cubicle, but I use my computer as the third screen. So I have like a small Dell work laptop, and I use that as, right now, it's my Olympics machine. So I can look over and see what's going on Gold Zone while I'm also working on the millions of things that we work on during the day. John,
hold on real quick. I'm sorry. One more thing. Because I just want to point out too that, first of all, I think that there should be more allowances in being able to watch it, because, watching these Olympics, it kind of makes you proud to be an American again. Forget politics for a minute, how you feel about our country. These are athletes that have dedicated their lives to bringing glory, not just to themselves, but for, playing for that badge, which is the United States of America. What?
You should have cut you off. Your hot take took 5 minutes, and now you're doing mine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
that's all right.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
Really quickly, and just say that, like, I forget what I was watching. I think it was the U.S. Women's gymnastics team take overall gold, and it was actually a little emotional. I didn't tear up or anything, but to see their excitement and what it meant for them, and to hear those stories, and they're coming from different backgrounds. It really is what America is meant to be, in that melting pot. And I don't know, it just makes me feel good about our country, and there's something to be said for that.
John, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was going to say my hot take is that the Olympics have done more for us than create theater. They've created unity. We live in a time that is extremely divided. We have a black woman and a white man running for president. We're talking everything is blue states and red states and electoral votes. And every time you get on social media, there's somebody saying something inflammatory. We have cops, and we have communities, and we have teachers, and we have unions, and everybody is like so on fire about everything. And I turn on the Olympics, and I see Suni Lee, who's an Asian American, and Simone Biles, who's a black American. I go over to the pool and see Michael Phelps and Snoop Dogg cheering together for a white lady in the pool because Katie Ledecky is lapping people as she swims a mile. And for 2.5 weeks every summer and every winter, we can watch some sports. We can be entertained by people who don't look like us, think like us. Nobody asks if they're Muslim, Christian, or Jewish. We all just cheer for red, white, and blue. And I think that we lose a lot of that now in our current politics with social media and everything going on. My hot take is that even if the United States didn't win a single medal, what they are doing for us as a country, when we can escape everything else that's going on and tune in just to cheer for our guys and our girls, cannot be overstated. So go Team USA. Soccer team is showing up, which I was happy about. We're doing it at the pool. Sha'Carri and Lyle are getting ready to tear it up at the track. I'm watching all the Olympics too, but I think it's big, even if we come up short of some of those gold medals that we think we might win.
So you guys are making it really hard to follow up because you guys went with, our deep. Normally we have like one deep segment, and I guess the CTE thing was deep enough, right? Because I was going to keep it a little lighthearted, a little Cleveland focused, especially because I'm in a really good mood about a lot of things that I'm seeing going on right now. The Guardians are the best team in baseball. We have had some ups and downs record-wise, even after, and then today happened. We're filming this on Thursday night for those who are watching, later on. They beat the Orioles they beat the brakes off of them. I think it was 10-3 was the final score. Yeah. The Guardians are for real. I've been saying the Guardians are for real. Yeah, we went in a little bit of a slump, but let's relax. That's what my whole thing has been, is let's relax. Yes, they need to go get a pitcher. They did. Yes, they should maybe add another bat. They did. Were they the sexiest moves? No. Were we expecting them to do that? If you know this front office, you shouldn't expect that. That's all I'm saying. I'm happy with where we're at as a baseball team. I'm really excited come October, wherever we're going to be seated and, watching that October baseball. You were giving me chills. I think, Erik, you were the one talking about October baseball with the lights, right?
No, that was me.
Was it John? Was it? Regardless, you were giving me chills because I was getting excited to watch the Guardians. I was thinking back to the Oscar Gonzalez home run against the Yankees. I digress. I could, reminisce for days.
I was at that game too.
Were you really?
SpongeBob.
Matt, who does the Monday show with me, was also there with his mom. They're both huge Guardians fans. So great story to hear from his perspective as well. But yeah, I'm really excited about this team. You're going to have ups and downs in baseball. You're going to get hot. You're going to get cold. It's a long season. Just really happy with everything that's going on. And I'm also happy with the Olympics. I of course, can touch on that forever. And Tim reminds me too, Jose Ramirez, 4 home runs in 3 games. I mean, how do you not love that type of baseball, that brand of baseball? Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I have some things to get to this weekend. I got to go put this Intercontinental Championship on the line against Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn. And then I'm going to watch my boy Cody Rhodes beat Solo Sikoa. Then I'm going to wrap it up with CM Punk whooping the brakes off of Drew McIntyre. Shout out my boy CM Punk. I'm going to meet him tomorrow. I'm really excited about that. Anybody who's in Cleveland, for SummerSlam, I know there's some overlap there. Enjoy your time. Enjoy our city. And until next time, Cleveland, Tim, Tyler, everybody that's been tuning in, make sure you hit subscribe everywhere too. I can't always forget that, but I always do. Thank you for tuning in. Until next week, it's been a great time here at the office. Have a great rest of your week, Cleveland.